Andrew's claim never to have even met Virginia Giuffre always looked pretty shaky to many people. Not that many people believed him. It's fair to say this morning that those claims are now in tatters, because we have this series of emails allegedly between Andrew and Epstein, specifically about Giuffre, conspiring between them, the two men, in February 2011 to smear and discredit her. They discussed her date of birth, they discussed her social security number, they discussed allegations that she had a criminal record in America, and yet 8 years later, Andrew is solemnly telling Emily Maitlis at Newsnight that he's never even heard of her. Does that denial have any credibility left to it?
Well, not to me. And I'm still staggered, having seen the email that he sent Epstein where he said we're in this together, which was the day after this photograph had been published. He didn't refer in any sense of regret or who is this woman.
Who is this girl?
I don't remember this incident because he's trying to say that the picture could have been confected, fake news, AI, whatever you want to call it. And in that extraordinary email to Epstein, he says, let's play again or play together again. It's my stomach churning. It was stomach churning because the inference was, well, I played with her, there'll be others.
And that was the last straw for the palace,
Of course it was.
Yeah, he's either misled...
He's lied.
Or lied. I mean, you can decide which, whether you want to be polite or truthful.
He's lied.
Yeah.
And has he done that with his family, as well as the British public and everybody else? But this hole he's in, he's dug himself in deeper and deeper, and it's squalid, it's sordid, it's absolutely
that email
nauseating.
That email you referred to was revealed last weekend, just over a week ago, and that, yes, showed pretty clearly that he had not spoken the truth. And also, he had definitely been in touch with Epstein after he said he'd stopped being in touch with him. The emails this weekend prove the same point, because the emails we're talking about were written in February 2011. He told Emily Maitlis that he'd stopped any communication with Epstein in December 2010. So it's an underlining of that untruth.
I mean, where do you start with this one? I mean, it's all about the timing, isn't it? Because we had the allegations about Sarah Ferguson first. Obviously, she's no longer a duchess. Then we had the email allegations about Prince Andrew. Then we had the extract of the book coming out, which is due out tomorrow. That was also last week. And by the end of last week, the palace had decided enough was enough. So, like, any pretence that this was Prince Andrew's choice, it's for the birds. This was the palace saying to Prince Andrew, the King, and Prince William saying to Prince Andrew, you need to drop these titles. And even there, we have an issue. He's no longer using the titles, but as a lot of people have noticed, he still actually has them, because until you change the law, he's still the Duke of York. So he's just... The palace speak is it's extant but in abeyance. In other words, they still exist, but you just won't use them.
There's a lot of people making comment on that, feeling that that is not enough, that actually more should have been done on that front.
Yeah, but when you say more should be done, that means they need to get the government to change the law. And obviously, it's not for the palace to tell the government what to do. I mean, that sort of went wrong a few hundred years ago and didn't work out so well for them. So it would have to be for the government to say to the palace, oh, we're now going to make time for legislation in order to have a new law so that the Duke of York is no longer a duke and take the title away from him.
But there's probably an appetite for that, isn't there?
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Look, when an MP swears the oath at the start of a parliament, they swear the oath to the monarch and his heirs. Well, he is still the eighth in line to the throne.
Yep.
Now, you presume you can't take him out of the succession because he was born to that, but he is still, as Chris says, the Duke of York. The title is just in abeyance. It's like it's been put on the top shelf. There will be a clamour, I think, at Westminster to have to strip him of it, and it isn't complicated. People say it, and there's some suggestion the King wouldn't want Parliament being preoccupied with, because Parliament's got important things to do. If there was a consensus, they could do it very, very quickly.
Could do it in an afternoon.
They could.
And he's still a councillor of state, and he's still addressed as a prince. Right, you've got to stop the pussyfooting around here.
Yeah, and there are those calling for him to lose the fact that he's a prince, aren't they? For that to be taken from him as well, including Sky Roberts, Virginia Giuffre's brother.
Yeah, that's what he said to me at the weekend, actually. I had a long conversation with them, and yes, he says, well, let's take it a step further. OK, and he was actually very... I mean, he was full of praise for the King for what he's done. Sky Roberts said, I'm glad that someone like the head of state in the UK has decided that this was the right course of action, but can we not go further? Why is he still a prince? And then you get involved in all these, you know, different conversations about the fact, well, he was born a prince because he was born the son of a monarch, the late Queen Elizabeth, of course. So it just gets more and more complicated. But as these guys have just said, is it a very simple bit of legislation and could it happen very, very quickly? But you're right to point out the palace are very nervous about, you know, taking up parliamentary time for something such as this.
OK, let's hear from Sky Roberts now, because obviously, you know, he's a key part of this story. Virginia Giuffre's brother, who's been speaking about what's happened.
I think we've already taken all these necessary steps. Why not just take it another step further and relinquish him of his prince title as well, although I do know it's tied to blood. Now, I know that's a strong opinion from somebody from the US, so that's obviously comes, you know, with the UK decision. However, there's more to be done here.
Yes, when he says there's more to be done, that underlines a sense this morning, Monday morning, that the avalanche hasn't stopped moving.
No.
When the news broke on Friday evening, I write a column for a newspaper that's published on a Saturday. We had to make some late changes. And as I was writing away, my sense was that this was, I think generally it was felt from watching bulletins on ITN, for example, on Friday night, that actually a line had now been drawn under this and that it was possible to move on. There's a sense this morning that no, and the line hasn't been drawn at all. And as I say, the avalanche continues to rumble down the mountain.
We've got the Giuffre book tomorrow, but also how many more emails are going to emerge from Epstein?
But
because they keep coming. And there
could be a congressional inquiry.
Yeah.
But that line you talk about, well, it got blurred, you know, the band-old Duke of York, when it emerged, you know, it becomes clear he's keeping the title, he's just not going to use it, and he issues that statement. There's no contrition or any sympathy for the victims.
Well, he's not going to show contrition because he doesn't think... He's not admitting to have done anything wrong.
And then the day after, you discover there's another email, as you say, and this time he tried to get the police, the British police, to investigate and smear her.
That is really... I mean, that's really shabby.
Why did the palace not report him to the police then when he's going down that route? What happened with the protection officer, the guy, the flunky in Buckingham Palace? I mean, look, he's playing his brother here. We have all this, the noble king taking action. The statement was from Andrew himself. It wasn't from the king, and the king's left him with the titles. The king, who tried to resurrect him and had him at the Christmas celebrations walking in front of the public 2 years after he supposedly got locked in the tower, which he never was. And even his mother, who with his brother put up the £12 million to settle a sex claim, keep it out of court with a woman he'd never even met, according to Andrew. Well, she tried to bring him back into public life when he very publicly escorted her to the memorial service for his father, her dead husband, Philip.
Well, I talk about a moving avalanche of shame, I suppose, you could describe it as. Where's it going? We've now got the Metropolitan Police saying that they are launching a formal inquiry into Andrew's reported actions, as revealed in the Sundays yesterday. If those are proven to be true, if he did ask his personal protection officer, this is yet to be proven, but if he did ask his personal protection officer to make these inquiries on his behalf, could he be prosecuted?
Look, it's the job of, as you saw in the email just there, the PPO, the Personal Protection Officer. His job is to look after the member of the royal family. It's not his job to worry about Prince Andrew's reputation or to start looking at, you know, somebody's criminal record or alleged criminal record in the United States.
That's to say, the family says she does not have or did not have
absolutely,
a criminal record.
And we don't know at this stage what the Police Protection Officer did with this request that we see in that email. And that's exactly what the police are looking into now. Did the protection officer, but also did the deputy press secretary at the palace act correctly with this information? So, for all we know, the police officer could have said, right, that's not my job, sir, you'll have to refer that to somebody else.
But it seems even
and that would be the right course of action. We just don't know what happened.
Asking, so Di Davis, who was the Met's former head of royal protection, has been saying that asking a public servant, anyone from the palace or police, to commit these inquiries is inciting them aiding them and abetting them to commit misconduct in a public office.
I'm sure that's right, and I'm sure there's data protection issues too about what was he doing with somebody's social security number or national insurance number. This is a monarch. This is the eighth in line to the throne. Treating her like a piece of... just like a criminal, and yet he's the one who...
Well, this is a classic syndrome, isn't it? We all know that this syndrome exists, that victims are very often challenged by attempting to shame them. It's a known trope. And on the face of it, that's what seems to have happened here. She was speaking out. Her photograph was about to appear in the Mail on Sunday. The allegations were about to become extant that she was making against Andrew. And you see that this flurry of emails between him and Epstein, who is alleged to have sex trafficked her 3 times to Prince Andrew, discussing how they can discredit this victim.
This man, this royal slime ball has been playing he's the victim, I'm the victim here all along, and it adds to the nausea you feel about him. And he treated staff. You had some dealings with him. He treated staff badly. He was offhand. He was rude. People were servants in the most servile way. And look, if there's any blame, it does not get attached to the personal protection officer. We don't know whether he reported it up or whether he just put it in the bin and ignored it. But there should be no blame there. I think there are questions to be asked about the palace when they knew Andrew had done this. What action did they take? Did they say to him, "You can't do this. You shouldn't do this"?
But if he did do it, was that criminal behaviour?
Well, I think it is because certainly it's data protection issues. And to ask a police officer, it's not his job to ask a police officer to investigate, is it?
No, and
it just isn't.
Yeah, potentially encouraging them to do something that they're not supposed to do. Chris, what about how this looks for the king? Because there are those people who are saying that not strong enough action hasn't been taken over this, that he sort of gave him the option to give it up rather than stripping the titles from him. We know the King's going to the Vatican this week. Is it all going to be overshadowed by what's going on with Prince Andrew? Yeah,
no, I don't think Andrew was given any option, really. This was going to happen. And actually, a senior courtier in the palace said to me on Friday that, that was a busy day, but it ended well. In other words, this is exactly what the palace wanted to happen. And it did happen. And this was the quickest way they could think of doing it. Basically, if there was a better way of doing it and a quicker way of doing it, then they would have taken that option. But getting Andrew to voluntarily drop these titles was the quickest way they could go about it. But you're right to say about distraction, because this week in the Vatican, something will happen that's not happened for 500 years, not since the time of Henry VIII and the Reformation in the 1530s, for anyone who knows their Tudor history, when the king will pray alongside the Pope in the Sistine Chapel. What the palace doesn't want is for this story, and for people like us, still to be talking about this on Thursday when he's about to meet the Pope.
Well, with the book,
historic.
With Giuffre's memoirs coming out tomorrow, Tuesday, we probably are going to be talking about it. I want to ask you this, Chris. You have very good contacts in the palace. Was the King's motivation in making this happen at the back end of last week, in the announcement on Friday, was it simply because his brother had been caught out in the lie when he'd said to the public through Newsnight that he'd had no contact with Epstein after December 2010, when in fact he had, and was even predicting future contact, let's play again? Or was it because they think there's more to come out and it was better to do what they've done so far now rather than wait for more scandals?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't think they know if there is any more to come out, as we've seen from the emails we were just discussing about whether or not he kept in contact with Epstein after the point at which he said he cut off all contact. What this alleged email apparently says about him asking a police protection officer. I don't think they know what's coming down the track. But what they did come to a decision last week was enough is enough. We've had all of these stories. They keep coming out. It's always a distraction. Even at the funeral of the Duchess of Kent, somehow, and I don't quite know how this managed to happen, somehow every time Prince Andrew appears in public, he's not the man at the back looking a bit bashful. He's the man right at the front.
There was this moment, wasn't there, with Prince William that seemed awkward,
totally blanked him.
When William had wanted nothing to do with his uncle Andrew, who was trying to have a conversation with him. And
reportedly, in several Sundays yesterday, I think it was on the front page of the Sunday Times, Prince William does not want Andrew at his coronation.
Well,
anywhere
yeah,
near
I mean, it's a bit early to be talking about the guest list for the next coronation, of course, but I think you'd be right to say that, Andrew, for example, we know for a fact is no longer welcome at Christmas. You know, don't come to Sandringham, you ain't wanted there. But as far as the coronation goes, look, it's a long way off. But what both palaces, Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace, are saying now is that the King and Prince William are in lockstep on this one. They're totally acting together.
Just your thoughts.
Also, I'm saying he still continues to enjoy the trappings to most people watching this program. He's still got the trappings of royalty because he's still living in that enormous royal lodge, 30 rooms. I've told this before. When I interviewed him when I was on the Telegraph and Mail, I went there. I was blown away. I thought it was going to be a hunting lodge.
How is he paying? Given that he only has a small naval pension officially, how is he paying for the upkeep and the rent?
And why does he need somewhere that big?
And you know, the questions need to be asked about that. And where those questions won't be asked is in Parliament. Because in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, the speakers will bar any questions about the royal family. We've got a hereditary ruling family that's put on a pedestal here, and it's embroiled in a huge sleaze scandal.
Now, Kevin's getting excited. He can now whiff a Republican aroma. It ain't happening, Kevin.
Will not.
It ain't happening.
He's got good cause this morning.
Prince Andrew is being dealt with. The royal family will continue to flourish.
They should be scrutinised and held accountable.
The royal family will be concerned about the fact that any negativity like this does encourage those who take a closer look at the royal family and say, well, hold on a rampage.
I mean, in this country and abroad, because everything that Prince Andrew does is seen through the prism of the institution that his brother leads, of course. So that is the problem. And, you know, will it lead us to a republic?
No.
I mean, I think it's highly unlikely, but let's see. But, I mean, the palace is worried about how this, you know, reflects on them.
I asked where you all thought this might be going, and about half an hour less, we're going to be talking to the royal historian, Andrew Lowney, who, of course, wrote the book earlier this year, Fall of the House of York, very, very deeply researched, which is extremely critical of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. He really knows his stuff. He'll be coming in. He says, in his opinion, where will this end? He thinks it will end with Andrew behind bars.
See, that's
his prediction.
That's, I don't know.
Well, I'd be surprised, very surprised. Getting rid of the Duke of York title, by the way, is very significant. The late Queen, that was a very special title for her because her father was the Duke of York before he became the King. So she gave that very special title to her very special son. God only knows what she's thinking.
Well,
you have to ask why this decision wasn't taken in 2019 when he stood down. I mean, we wouldn't have had like five more years of these kind of questions. I mean, they could have taken it away from him after the news.
This is where it sucks in the rest of the family and the institution, because in a way they've tried to do the minimum each way, and it's very defensive. Yeah, they slipped him 12 million quid to keep the case out of court.
Move on to other matters. And I should say that we have approached Prince Andrew with the new allegations. He has not responded.
Wasn't he?
But vigorously denied the accusations against him in a statement on Friday. Chris, thank you to you for coming in to talk through that this morning. Other things we must talk about. The situation in Gaza. The Israeli military has now said that the ceasefire would hold. There was an attack that killed 2 Israeli soldiers. Then there was a wave of airstrikes that killed 36 Palestinians. You know, there was always fears, wasn't there, about what would happen with the ceasefire, whether it would be able to hold or not. How worried should we be by this, do you think?
And aid flows were halted in the Rafah crossing, which is on the Egyptian border.
Resume today.
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite serious because people are in desperate need. And it's fragile. Now, of course, Trump is saying Hamas hasn't actually broken the ceasefire itself. It believes it won't be controlling all of its members. Yeah, but there's
Israel is saying that Hamas fighters have crossed the red line, as it were, that they're not supposed to cross.
Well, they have killed 2 Israeli soldiers, but then that sounds a very disproportionate response because we know from experience that most of the people being killed by the Israelis are civilians.
Hamas have not sent back all the dead hostages too, and that was a very critical part of the ceasefire deal. And they've got to get on with it. Yeah. It could be that they don't know where they are, or it could be they're holding them back as bargaining chip. But it's pretty awful thing.
Back here,
it is.
The Citizens Advice Bureau have told us that 7 million people were deceived by online scammers last year. And Charlotte and I were swapping notes before the programme, and we both got this very convincing scammed email last week, didn't we, about the winter heating allowance.
The winter fuel one, which I was quite surprised to get myself, because I'm not quite in the age bracket yet to be eligible for that one.
Well, I'm afraid I am. But it was very convincing. Did you get it? Did you get the...
No. Like, at one time, you used to get they were known as the Nigerian emails, weren't they?
Yeah.
There was an email out saying, I've got a whole load of money in gold, I'm going to share it with you.
And they were often misspelt and badly presented.
But now
they are so convincing.
So much more sophisticated, that's all.
I mean, my wife, who's nobody's fool, I got home having got I was about to say to her, have you had the scam? And she said, we've got to get in touch with the Department of whatever to say that we were eligible for the heating. I said, you haven't answered it, have you? She said, no. I said, you haven't clicked on it? She said, no. I said, they don't send these things out on there.
There has to be responsibility on the publishers, the platforms, or your Gmail, Hotmail, whoever, whichever system you're on, to block these, weed them out. They'll know what's genuine from the DWP or whoever, and who is gaming the system.
They should be shooting them down.
So we've got Alex Wood coming on, and he is a former scammer. He made millions out
26 million he made.
Scamming, and then he's a reformed character now. He's changed his ways, and now he campaigns to encourage...
What did he do with the 26
million?
million?
To return quite
But he was very interesting. He'll say that the reason he became a reformed character was he was in court, he'd been found guilty, and he heard the witness statements of the people that he'd ripped off. And these were just ordinary people. And he suddenly realised that he was sitting and said, well, I'll get an open prison sentence.
He thought it was a victimless crime, that banks repay people the money. And
yeah, I've got my 26 million,
saying how it
heard the impact on these people, and that was the moment he had a massive change of heart.
I think
and now he advises the government.
Are close to suicide.
Yeah.
It's not a victimless crime at all. It's wicked.
We need to use the experiences and the knowledge of people like him who've turned to...
But fraud now is...
the people who are still at it.
I think fraud is the biggest crime in Britain today. Fraud.
Yep.
And most of that is online.
Talking of...
You don't put on a balaclava and get a sawn-off shotgun and go into a bank
Talking
anymore.
of crimes...
You do it online.
Well, one thing we do have to talk about is the heist at the Louvre.
That was, yes.
I mean, incredible, wasn't it?
Do with these extraordinarily
so
famous
brazen.
rare
And
diamonds.
you do wonder, they've escaped with, as you say, with all these priceless pieces. What will they be able to do with them? Because presumably they're unsellable. Will they melt them down? Will they already be melted down?
Which would be tragic.
I think it'll be broken up and end up in the Middle East, China, India, other countries where dodgy people won't ask where they came from. They'll just be out to make a lot of cash.
It just seems extraordinary. So yesterday, between 9:30 and 9:40, they brought this vehicle-mounted mechanical lift.
Amazing.
They then cut into the window, stole the items from 2 display cases, and then made off on scooters.
They knew exactly where they were going,
Less than
exactly what
7
they
minutes.
were taking. Yeah, less than 7 minutes. Quite extraordinary. Millions and millions.
I find a tiny, tiny shred of comfort in this story, actually. It shows that we're not the only useless ones in Europe. Yeah. Because this was useless.
Yeah, really.
I mean, this was useless security.
It should be the most protected building in the whole...
It's the kind of thing that would happen here these days.
Well, it's like the diamond geezers in Hatton Garden who tunnelled into the...
Well, this will be like the next Pink Panther film, won't it?
But one of the joys of the Louvre and other galleries is they're kind of, they're not fortresses, and we're having to make them fortresses, and then you make them fortresses, you push away the public.
Yes, I think
half a minute left. Yeah. Quick question. When is a chocolate bar not the chocolate bar?
I never eat.
When it's a penguin.
This is shocking news. Penguin bars don't have chocolate in them anymore. What? Did you know that? What? Penguins and clubs, they've got chocolate-flavoured coating... because of the price of cocoa rather than chocolate.
It's not chocolate.
Should be done under the Trade Descriptions Act.
Well, to be fair, they don't claim that it's chocolate.
No, but
people think, don't they?
Club biscuits also don't have it. And remember their slogan, if you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join our club. They can't say that anymore, can they?
Well, that's astonishing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, let's have a boycott.
Well,
not if you don't buy them anyway. It's quite already there.
I'm not affected.
And there are fewer quality streets in the quality street now.
Now we're getting
I'll tell you what, society as we know it is crumbling.
Disgraceful. What's happening, honestly?
Where's the world going?
I blame the Labour government for all of this.
All right.